So tonight I'm going to share with you the story of Dru Yoga. So people ask, where's Dru Yoga come from? Say, well, it's very therapeutic type of yoga, and it's based on, it's very safe. But this is a real story, where it comes from, and it goes back a long, long time ago, once upon a time. And in it, there's going to be 9 really important lessons of Dru, really important like principles.
Not 7.
Could be 7, but I've added a couple of extra. And in it as well, we're going to introduce a special mantra. So the power of mantras, it's like more than you can believe. And this is the recommended mantras from a lot of top spiritual enlightened beings over the years. Say, if you're going to use one, use this one. So I'm going to tell you that as well. So the story starts a long, long time ago. And there's a young prince called Dhruva. So it's from Dru Yoga is named after him. So Dhruva was a prince, and his father was king. So he was a very righteous king. And actually he had 2 queens. So Dhruva's mother was very sort of kapha. So, just very kind, very easygoing, very loving, very loyal, all that sort of thing. And then there's another queen who also had a 5-year-old son, so all very close, those 2 boys. And she's a bit more pitta. So she's a little bit more, up there, more ambitious and putting herself forward. And of course, more ambitious for a son than little Dhruva. So what happened one day that caused a little bit of an upset. And this is the first lesson of Dru, that sometimes there's something that maybe at the time you don't think is very nice, or can be very painful, or very difficult to deal with. But it sort of transforms you in a way. It's a gift, and that's the first thing. So anyway, his sort of half-brother is he's sitting on his father's lap, and he's sitting on that. Oh, hi, thanks. So Dhruva's half-brother is hi, folks. How you doing? I was going to tell you this is happening today, and then I thought I'll leave it to the universal network. It just saves me, saves my data. I don't send any data. So tonight we're doing we're going back a long, long time ago, once upon a the story of Dru. Where's Dru Yoga come from? Because everyone wants to know that. They would say, what is it, Dru? And you Google it, and for some reason, we should be top, but there's Dru fireplace. So nothing to do with Dru fireplace, definitely. So anyway, so Dhruva was a prince, and his half-brother, and Dhruva wanted to sit on his father's lap as well. So he climbed up on his father's lap, and it's just a very normal, very beautiful thing. But his stepmother didn't like it, and she yanks him off, pulls him off of his father's lap. And he's like, no, what he felt really like cruelly treated sort of thing. And she's saying, no, you can't sit on your father's lap. You have to be born through me, like that. And he was just totally shocked. He wasn't expecting that, because his mother's very kapha and very loving, very kind, and And so, but he knew his stepmother could be a little bit, fiery with him, because he'd been taught about Ayurveda and everything, even at that age. So he could see that her pitta was a little bit out of balance, so. But he sort of then looked to his father, and he really wanted backup from his father. But unfortunately, his father was a little bit under the thumb of this pitta queen who was very attractive and, very sort of... So he didn't back up his son. He looked away, and this really hurt Dhruva. So this is it. Sometimes these things can happen to us. but somehow this pain can really transform us as well. You know, it can be a gift. And this is what happens to Dhruva. So he runs off in floods of tears, and he's crying to his own mother. And his own mother is very, very kind. She goes, "What's up, Dhruva?" Hugs him. And he tells what's happened, and he can hardly, you know, and she says, "Don't worry, you know, your own," she's a very sort of spiritual person. She said, "Really, just think about your real father." So who's your real father? It says your real father's called Narayana. He's like the father of all living things. And she goes, "Well, where do I find this real father?" So he says, she says, "Well, in nature." So this is, the first lesson I drew is that sometimes these things happen, but they transform us. You know, they sort of drive us on to find something much deeper. The second thing is connected with nature. So Dru Yoga is always better connected with nature. So she says, we says, "Well, where do I find him?" He says, "We'll try it in nature, in the forest." So little Dhruva takes it really, really seriously. So he decides he's going to leave. He's only 5 years old, and he packs his little bag, and in there he puts makes some peanut butter sandwich, and takes all things little boys like to take. You know, he's got a bit of string and matches. I'm trying to remember, I used to have when I was a little boy. It's that matchbox with a spider in it, because you can really scare girls with that. Because I didn't find spider remotely frightening, really, particularly a sort of big dead one. It's not. But when you put it in a little box and wrap it up and say, "I've got a little gift for you," I mean, it's really worked, actually. I mean, it's wonder I've never had any girlfriends, because I think later on in you know, I changed my attitude when I became a teenager. But I think that I've always remembered, you know, sort of thing. That was a boy, sort of. So it took all these little things. I mean, there's all sorts of things you find in little boys' satchel. So rushes off. Comic was there. Everything you thought you need for an extended stay in the forest was there. So rushes out and goes to the forest, and he's really ready in his mind to find Narayana, to find this sort of father who's the father of everything. And the third lesson of Dru is that something happens when you make that decision to find yourself, that the universe responds. Don't ask me how it happens, but it does. They say when you're ready, then the teacher's ready, you know. So he rushes off to the forest, and he goes in there, and it's really sort of dark and everything. But there's a special sage. He's called a sage. He's like a well-known character in all the called Narada, and he's like an eternal wise being who just travels place to place. He never stays in one place. He's like a traveling holy man, wise man, and he had sort of, through his sort of wisdom and through his intuition, he had sort of felt Dhruva's intention, and that it was very sincere, even though he's just a 5-year-old boy. So actually there are 10 lessons, and this is another one going to slip in. The age doesn't matter. It isn't to do with age, you know. So he rushes into the forest, got his little bag with all his little things in it, and he gets there. Of course, when he gets there, he thought it was a good idea, but it's quite scary when he gets in the forest. And then he sees Narada just comes walking up to him and says, "Why are you here? Why are you in the forest?" He says, "I've come to find Narayana. I've come to find who I am. I've come to find myself." So Narada says, "You're a bit young for that, aren't you? You know, you're only 5 years old. People normally do that when they're much older, you know, when they're sort of, you know, they've had lots of experience in life and they're looking for a deeper meaning, or they're getting very old and they're wondering what it's all about. But we don't normally find that in 5-year-old boys. So he says, best thing is go back to your mum and dad, get back on the iPad and, you know, do all the things little boys like doing, you know." And he goes, "No." So then how many lessons have you had so far? 3, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I got number 4. Just check out. Number 4 is, this is really important, you've got to have determination. You know, when people say, you know, you've got to be determined sort of thing. So he says, no. I really want to know. So basically, Narada then starts teaching him. So he starts teaching him all the Dru Yoga that we love and know today, including all the sort of Ayurvedic bits as well. Because put all those, this is good for Vata, explains all that to him. And he did EBR, EBR1. Have you done that yet? It's energy. So he showed him basically activations. You've done activations, haven't you, in Dru Yoga? And he had they didn't have CD player, it wasn't all digital then. It's sort of, I don't know what they had, but he just had some sticks, I think. Goes, right, okay, do the activation, No, he had, actually, Narada has like a Veena, so he's doing that. And so he had to do the activations, and he's shaking this and that. And then he does EBR1, that's it. And he says, keep your spine aligned, and, all that sort of thing. And then he's showing them the different postures, and they're reflecting nature, they're reflecting, the animals in nature sort of thing. And then he also says, right now you have to, as you're here in the forest, eat the plant-based foods. So showing the different plant, because in the kingdom he's eating very, very rich food as well. So he goes, he's sort of eating it, it's just very like the fruits and the nuts, all the things that are in the forest, he's just eating that. So he's very, very healthy as well, and his body's getting stronger. And he said, it's a little bit tasteless, so he said it's all right, because we got this Dru spice mix that, He goes, isn't that Keith's spice mix? So he goes, it is, but he hasn't done the book yet, so we sort of, so he's putting that on, and anyway, he's doing the yoga, and he's slowly purifying him. And then the next, this is number 5. Number 5. He says also there's a special mantra that comes with Dru Yoga. It's like the Dru Yoga mantra, and it's called Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's a very simple mantra. It's called a 12-syllable mantra. It has 12 syllables. And it starts off with Om, Om. And Om is a sound that just reverberates through your whole body. And it just aligns. You can just, so there's different mantras really. There's 1-syllable mantra, which is Om. So, so just Om, it vibrates through the chakras, it harmonizes. And then Om Namo. So most mantras have Namo in it. Don't ask me why, I think it's so you're doing a mantra. It's just sort of, otherwise it's Om Namo, and then and the universe knows there's a mantra coming. Otherwise you might be yawning, you might be going, Om, like that. And the universe goes, I don't know if that counts, because someone, it's just, because sometimes they say another really important mantra is just Ram. So Ram is actually called a bead mantra, a seed mantra, and it's also one of the names of Narayana. So Ram is, they say it's such a powerful mantra. But you might just be yawning, it could be, oh, Ram, sort of like that. So to know, you have to say Om, which is mantra itself, then Namo, and then, it says, well, this is definitely a mantra coming, if it's done those two, because you don't go, Om Namo somehow, like by accident. So anyway, so Om Namo, Bhagavate, and Bhagavate means the divine, and Vasudevaya is a particular source of divine, which really brings in the quality of love, and love is our true nature. So he says to him, use this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Dhruva just uses the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So through the yoga, through spending the time in the forest, eating the sort of healthy Ayurvedic food, then the mantra began to vibrate through his whole body, and it started, taking over, giving him a lot of energy. So then he found he didn't need to eat anymore. And then as he carried on doing the mantra, he even forgot that he needed water. And he was just standing, let's say he was standing in the tree posture with that standing up with, you put one foot here sort of thing, and then you put your arms up, and he was just standing like that. And he totally lost all consciousness. And he stood in that posture for a long period of time. And that sounds incredible, but actually I went to this yoga weekend in Manchester, Yoga Festival, and then had this teacher from India, and they're quite strict. So we're quite softy, as soon as it hurts a bit, stop, all that. So it was the opposite. As soon as it hurts a bit, that's good, sort of thing. So he had everyone doing like this, like he just said, start doing that. And then he said, after 3 minutes, you want to stop. You really want to just stop. That's all you can think about. He says, but I'm not going to let you stop for 20 minutes. So he says, you have to just let your mind not think that. And it's amazing the power of your mind. Once you're doing that, I was just doing that. And then after a few minutes, I really just wanted to stop, sort of thing. But then I just thought, okay, I just won't think that. And then it just becomes like, it doesn't hurt anymore, sort of thing. So we've got 20 minutes now, we could try that. No. But what I noticed was he wasn't doing it. He was like here with his iPhone, and then he was like, I don't know, texting someone in New Delhi or something, I don't know. But it's amazing how, he found that perfect point of alignment where his mind went totally still and he just became totally energized by the mantra. And he was just practicing that, and then he got to space where he didn't need food, didn't need water. And then there comes a point where he didn't even need to breathe. And this perfect point of total stillness, where everything stops. Now what happened, any of you read the Indian stories quite a lot? What happened, there's someone called Indra, and he's in charge of there's this earth, here, which is middle, where good and bad things happen. So it's a choice. We can be here, which is sort of like heaven. Well, I don't mean just here, I mean the whole week. It's quite nice, isn't it? Beautiful environment, it's good food, lovely people, everyone's really nice. Beautiful environment. But just down the road, someone's in hell, I can tell you. There'll be something arguing, all sorts of things going on. Someone's facing just literally a few miles away, sort of. And then there's a world above it, which is all like heaven, and everything's nice all the time. And they say, actually, that's great, but you can't learn anything there because there's nothing driving you. Like here, you almost need, like Dhruva, something to happen that makes him go to the forest, that makes him meet Narada, that makes him do the practice, that makes him learn the mantra, and that actually frees him. But that's a bit, you can enjoy. And then there's a place a bit worse, apparently. That anyway, so Indra's in charge of this higher bit, and he doesn't like it if people get too spiritual. So he really doesn't. He feels threatened, which for good reason, because the stories go, he's always getting thrown out, and someone else takes over, and all these stories all about him trying to get back. So he's totally paranoid a little bit. Apart from he's divine and enlightened, but paranoid as well. You know, he's been traumatized. He actually needs Dru Yoga. So he could come through and then say, okay, I accept now that so. And so what his normal tactic is that when, especially with any sort of sage or male sort of devotee that's getting really good in their practice, then he has a lot of beautiful assistants who are like angelic, beautiful women who never age. And he basically sends them down with full makeup, everything, and, you know, to sort of distract them a little bit, you know, or quite a lot often. And that's his plan. That's plan number one. And he has a god of love to help as well. He sends him down with his little bow and arrow, and he sends it, and then the guy wakes up, and then there's all these beautiful angels have appeared somewhere. So if that happens to you, Adam, know that it's Indra, sort of, yeah. So basically, he sends that. But of course, that doesn't work with a 5-year-old boy. It was just like, you know, that happened. He opens his eyes, and then he goes, "Oh, so what?" You know, and then carried on. And then what happened? There's something called the Sapta Rishis. The Sapta Rishis are the 7 great sages who take care of the earth. It's their job. They're like eternal beings. So they came down and they said to Indra, "Look, you don't need to." They reassured him. Said, "This boy, he just wants to find himself." And from that moment on, they just walked around him. The 7 sages walked around him and protected him. And so he entered this stillness, and he stopped breathing. And then after a while, even the pranas in his body stopped moving. And at that point, the sort of Lord of the universe has to appear, because it almost stops. It becomes so powerful, its practice gains so powerful that it can almost stop the pranas in the whole universe from moving. So he has to appear. He appears to him, and then he says, "What is it you want?" He stands in front of him, this beautiful being who's like, represent the whole of creation. He says, "What is it?" Stands over it. "What is it I can give you?" And Dhruva opens his eyes and he says, "Well, it seems a bit trivial now, but I just wanted to sit on my father's lap." So sometimes what you wanted in the first place is like, for me, I just wanted to have a bit less stress, feel a bit more relaxed. I started doing yoga, but what I got from it, I didn't even know existed really, you know. I didn't know that this feeling, when I first did the 4 direction sequence, I remember I was there, but the first time Mansuk did it ever, it was sort of new release. He just said, "Right, I'm going to release," and he did it, and he was doing the 4 direction sequence. If you haven't done it yet, ask Andre to show you the 4 direction sequence. What you do it, and you bring in qualities from different directions, and the first quality was feeling of love. So, you know, I never really understood that love can be something that's not just what something invokes, you know, like you get a beautiful car and you can love it, or you can be in love with someone, or you can love your mother or something like that. But to actually take that quality on, and then another one was forgiveness as well. So it's amazing what so he says it seems a bit trivial now, but it can give you more than you want. So he says, "What is it that you want?" So he says, "I just want to," and then actually before what he does is when he first opens his eyes, then Narayana actually touches his cheek, and then a verse, he says something. And what he says is that I never knew that all the time this consciousness was inside me. You know, that I knew everything. I never knew who I was. So he says, what is it you want then? So just never let me forget who I am. That I'm not just me, but, there's something much greater, that I'm you as well as me. It sounds a funny thing to say, for us. But you sort of realise that consciousness, that sort of feeling of oneness, had been there all along, and he'd never realised it. He always thought he was separate. And he said, just don't let me forget that. Because he knew as soon as, he left, as soon as he left the forest and went home, he'd be back to his normal things. His stepmother would be there, who wouldn't be very nice to him. His friends would be there. All the sort of things, on Facebook would be there, or trolling could be happening, he's a royal person, so it might be in the papers, anything. People could say anything about him, really. So he just said, my wish is, don't let me forget who I am. That's, that's my greatest wish. And also just let me stay in the forest. I just want to stay here. I'm very happy here. So Naren says, it's fine, I won't let you forget who you are. But the next lesson of Dru is that you can't keep it for yourself. You can't just, you've learnt this now. Now you must share it. So that's a really important thing about Dru Yoga, is that it's something to help you, but it helps you much more when you share it with other people. Even Ayurveda, you can learn it for yourself, but when you share it with someone else, when you help someone else, and he said this is the law that I've made up, because he said the law I've made up is, I'm just going to tell you what it is and how it works, because not many people understand how this great creation that I've made, how it works. They understand a bit, they understand gravity and they understand electronics, but they don't really understand the main principle I put in there. And the main principle is, if you want to receive something, you have to give first. If you want love, you have to love first. If you want to receive, you have to give. And if you want to understand something, you have to, teach it to someone else. So this is a secret I've put in. And very few people know it. Everyone wants to be loved, but they want someone else to love them. Everyone wants people to be kind to them. So you have to, everyone wants knowledge. And it's called Hridayan. Hridayan means where you give before you receive, without thinking about receiving, actually. Because then the receiving, it takes care of himself. So he says, this is the truth that I share with you. But you have to go back. And you have to be king. So he goes back and he's king, and it's a great kingdom, because it's all sort of ruled by Dru Yoga. Can you imagine that? If the government now are totally possessed with Dru Yoga, and they're doing Dru Yoga and it's all about love, we all love each other, we're all and they're all into Ayurveda. Can you imagine that? And it's all compulsory. Even at school, it's just Ayurvedic lunch. There's yoga first, meditation, there's a bit of work, just for lunch sort of thing. Everyone's out in the garden, growing their own stuff. The 7-day plan, that's just everyone's doing that. It's just, you have to. There's police come round and say, well, you're not even on day 6. And it was just, you get, it's hard to believe in this day and age. We might think, our rulers, people, they can be quite selfish. But these kings, they lived on what's called dharma. They're very dharmic. And so Dhruva was an epitome of that. And the final blessing was, that because because he's sort of been displaced from his father's lap, and because he felt he didn't have a place, and because as a boy he found that sort of still point, and because the 7 rishis walked round him, then when he died, after a long reign, because he was doing a lot of Ayurvedic stuff, he just didn't die, he just like just kept going and going, and but eventually, and it may sound funny, but you can sort of have a healthy death. I don't know how that I mean, no one thanks you for it. You go, well, they had a really organic death, it's really good. They go, I want chemical life, give me the drugs, sort of, But no, you can have a healthy death, actually, because you're not meant to suffer that much. You're meant to be pretty healthy and pretty, a few things pack in, and that's natural. But nothing too drastic. And then you just sort of die quite quick, or you just die in your sleep, or, it's all quite natural, and it's all quite beautiful, really. It doesn't have to be a big drama sort of thing. And, it could be nicer than being born, really. That's quite, So, anyway, lived a long time. And then when he died, as a special reward for the things which symbolise everything that happened in life, you see, the 7 rishis are actually the 7 stars that, because, they're saying that these great beings, we see them as the stars, That's why it's so, when you see this, it's just, so the 7 rishis are actually the 7 stars that circle the North Star, the pole star. And so I think it's called the Big Dipper, and the 7 stars on there. And they're the 7, called the Sapta Rishi in Sanskrit, 7 rishis. And they circle around the North Star. And the North Star is called Dhruva. And that's what they say where now. He resides there, and he's the only place in our universe that's totally fixed. And he lives in that still point. And that's the final gift of Dru, that it takes you to your still point, so you can be still, though everything else is moving around you. So, as I say, he had a happy ending. So, even though he got, really had to run away, and that was a bit frightening, but in the end, yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope and that's the final, the still point is the final gift of Dru, really. Yeah. So that's your little bedtime story. I hope that's all right. I got lots of stories. I can talk for about 2-3 hours. Yeah. Like, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. And everyone's a bit scared. So you guys see, you didn't know that. I'm surprised Adam's come, or Jill, because, see, none of the other guys are here. They aren't, are they? No. Well, Anna's here, but the others think, oh my God, I mean, they really love it when they're there. Well, they particularly love the ends. I think, like... And what happens, something magical happens when you do that, isn't there? But anyway, so I had strict instructions from Samya that half an hour, that's enough for these guys, So, so thank you. Anyway, thanks for coming. Just a little story. And, there's something so timeless about these stories. And they do have a meaning. So just think about that story. But think about the mantra. That mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just believe in it. Even that it has, just try it. It's like, because it has a lot of power, So, great, okay, thanks very much. Anyway, thanks for coming, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
And it is a true story because it's on the internet, so it must be.